And we're live. Hey, this is Bill from Humanoid FX, sporting my new trucker cap. It's foam, red, white, and blue, and sand, and the other colors. Um, let's get into it. I'm gonna talk about how to stack overdrive and fuzz. Right? Why would you do it? Which order? What's the point? Should you even do analog? I don't know. Let's talk about it. All right, coming right up, right after this. All right, and we're back. So, how do you stack fuzz and overdrive? Well, first of all, before we get into that, okay, and here's those two pedals right here. We'll just set them for a minute. You haven't seen this one in a while. This is the Exceptional Overdrive. I haven't made this in quite some time. I've got a few of them left, and there's a few that I didn't really like the way that they looked so much with the knobs, so I just kind of held on to them. I've got, you'll see them. They're going to come up on my reverb shop in just a few. This is the Goblin. This is, of course, my kind of quintessential fuzz pedal. It has a gain right there, so you've got the ability to adjust not only the actual gain of the signal, the fuzz, the distortion, right, and also the input and or output volume. Really great for pushing it. And if you put the gain down, kind of tightens things up, doesn't get so loose with the fuzzy. But anyways, so yeah, what is this? What am I? I'm the Humanoid FX Show. Oh, you should see what the AI says about doing for an outline for this. It's got like episode, intro segment. It can be a jingle. Maybe I could do a voiceover, like a satirical tagline. So I think I'd do something like that. I'm not a professional comedian by trade, nor do I speak, to anybody as a orator, right? I am not really doing that much presenting besides what I do when I'm, doing this sort of stuff and if I'm on calls or whatever. But the studio's changed a little bit if you haven't noticed, and I'll just point out a couple of things. I've got the monitors down here now. There's one on each side, and I'll get a better shot back for you can see the actual. But there is, this is sort of the studio setup, like right here. I'm going to do some demos. I've got the drawer here I actually have a preamp and then an IR box. That could be cool. But yeah, I've got, a few things here. Pedals I haven't tested. I want to do something with this vintage phase, which I use a lot, and I could maybe show you. But then I've got some of the other ones I'm doing. Plus up here is the tank that I'm going to do. Here's the Cube Baby that I did one for recently. But, and as always, I've got my 1986 Jackson Performer, right? That's this guitar right here. It's got a Floyd Rose, right? And it's wired up in an HSH, but what's very cool is that with the 5-way switch, when you're on positions 2 and 4, it automatically splits the each of the humbuckers, right? So you get that option. There's no push-pull pots. Yeah, so it's great. Sounds great. It's got the reverse headstock. My wife doesn't really like those. I don't know, just the look. Sometimes it's not for everybody. I feel like tuning is a little weird when you're backwards on it, but let's talk about this is the first thing I want to go on, because first off, this, the show, the Humanoid FX Show, right? It doesn't have to be just about, and if you're just listening in the car, it's not going to just be about talking about pedals that you can't see and that I can't hear. I'm going to play some samples once I'm going to pause this in a minute and get set up with some of the, and actually I might not use this one. I might use a different one, but I have a couple other fuzz pedals too, but I might. So when we want to stack pedals is for massive tone, and so how to do it, we're going to talk about how to do it. It's usually signal order, your output volume, on each, your overdrive. I used to just crank it all the time. Now I tend to use the different channels on my amp, and I like to have just a little bit of overdrive so that I've got everything all set for if I'm playing on clean that I want to put some overdrive on it. It's just enough. And then if I'm using the same pedal when I'm on like the actual overdrive channel on my amp, which you can't see right now, I've got a half stack right behind me. It's a Randall 50 watt tube head, and then I've got a 4x12 Carvin closed back cabinet which has those Eminence speakers. Sounds really nice. But there's other stuff going on that I want to talk about that are in the industry. Other stuff such as I got this new guitar. The prices are crazy these days. It's not new. It's new to me. It's basically brand new. But I'm like, I think the third owner. I got a Charvel Pro Mod San Dimas Pro Mod HH, and it's the Chameleon, right? So this is called the I don't know what exactly it's called. It's all, Pro Mod series, right? But it's the Chameleon. It's got the all maple fretboard and neck, and I got this thing on Reverb, for like half the price of what they're charging for this new. This place is charging. This is Will Cut Guitars is charging $1,200. I'm sure you can get a discount. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is $1,200. I thought it was $1,120, but no, it's $1,200. And I think on the Charvel site it goes for $1,100. Google here says typically $1,000 to $1,200, which is crazy. Because if you look at them used, you could get one that's great shape for $750 or something. I got mine for like $620. But last time we also talked about, and this goes along with prices. Here's a heavy Relic, and now I know that this is Eddie's Guitars, and then there's Sweetwater. Here's another one, which is a Jackson USA Custom Shop Rhodes. It's the Snow White heavy Relic, $6,500. You can see me sort of scrolling on here a little bit. It is a lot of money for the already reliced guitar. I know that looks pretty cool, like as if you've had it forever. But this is a lot of money. I want to know the thoughts about this. This is a ton of money. I know it's a Jackson Custom Shop. This, that's $7,000 on the one. The other one was a different version that was Snow White, was $6,500. It's a ton of money. And then you scroll down here and it shows us Les Paul it's a made to measure Murphy's Lab 59 Les Paul Standard, Murphy painted ultra heavy aged orange lemon fade, $10,289 on sale from $14,699. So that's a Gibson Custom Shop. Do people have money for this? Yeah, that's why they're there, and that's why they're being sold. This is four separate versions of that type of guitar. That's, you can buy a brand new ESP, cost $5,000. Brand new Sir costs $4,000. Tom Anderson's $4,000 or $5,000. All these you can get way up in all these prices, and is it worth it? I don't know. Can I swap a couple of EMGs into my lightning bolt guitar that I bought for $50 on Amazon? And yeah, I got the action low. It's maybe not intonated 100% perfectly because I'm not always the best at that, but it sounds good, it plays well, and it was $50 for the guitar. The pickups cost more than the guitar, and I got those used on Reverb for like $50 each. I got an EMG 81 used for like $50, $55, and then I got an EMG H, right? So that's just a single coil in a humbucker size. And I put that into the neck because I like the way that sounds there. It's pretty good. I wish it was hotter. I'm surprised actually at how it's a little, the output is less than I thought it would be, a little bit. So I may want to change that to like an EMG 60 or an 85. I love the 85s. I got the 85s in my, actually, what I could talk about here is that I got the 85s in my Charvel. But then the pickups that came in the Charvel, I've got them inside my I got the HH pickguard right here for my Stritch. Right, so this at the bridge is a the Super Shred, the Seymour Duncan, and then the one at the neck is the Elnico 2, the custom shop Elnico 2. And both of these Seymour Duncans are the hex pole pieces, and they the Super Shred is like the 10B or whatever is called, the Trumbucker, and it's pretty hot. It's like 15K or so. I think the JB is hotter at like 17.5 maybe. But so since the buyer had already put the EMG 85s in the Charvel, I got both of those, and so I put them in the Stritch, and it's pretty cool. I'm gonna, I might put those into the lightning bolt guitar just because they might look cool with the white. But anyways, so there's all sorts of stuff. You should see what the AI is suggesting that I do. It's suggesting that I do comedy bits that are like, farts and stuff like that. Like, I'm like, are you serious? I mean, it would be funny if I just started farting into the mic and it was like, look at how many viewers this guy is getting. But I know I want to set up. I want to set these up. I might do with the entity. I have like a prototype version of that. But what I do want to talk about more about with stacking overdrive and fuzz is that you can get massive tone, better sustain, right? Creative gain combinations. That's just one thing. I would say if you're looking for, a very specific tone, like Smashing Pumpkins Siamese Dream or something like that, like you're going to want to probably, stick to the exact same gear that was used, the Big Muff and the waist sensor pickups and the, it's just, and then stacking over and over, the double tracking if you're going to be, recording and stuff. But it's just, it's a little bit different when you got your own, pedals and you're trying to tweak and do all that stuff and you're trying to figure out that sound. But, basically, this is one of the most effective ways to unlock a unique tone from your setup, right? Fuzz pedals deliver thick, saturated textures, right, full of harmonic richness. I'm ad-libbing this as we speak, okay? So while an overdrive pedal adds clarity, punch, and dynamic response. So when combined, these two effects create a powerful blend. So the way that you stack them, fuzz into overdrive or the other way around, can dramatically change the character of your sound. Some setups give you tighter, more defined tones, while others unleash chaotic saturation. That's perfect for heavier styles or experimental features, textures, and features, right? In this guide, we'll walk through the basics of stacking fuzz and overdrive, exploring the different signal chain options and sharing tips for dialing in a tone that fits your playing style. So, basically, if you have an overdrive, you really want to have kind of what it is more of a controlled form of distortion, right? So kind of mimics the natural breakup of a crank tube amp. Usually it's the same, schematic structure as a preamp, right? That could go into that could be from a tube amp. Friedman, does it. They've got lots of variations of like JCM, 800. And you got, transistors that mimic the triodes inside like an actual tube amp, right? And so, but a fuzz pedal, right, is it just a full, thick saturated distortion, right, with heavy compression and sustain. Think, Purple Haze, Satisfaction. from the Rolling Stones, So what makes the effect so special is that each there's all these different types. It's different distortions. You're gonna get different tonal, uh, you know, ranges with your sonic, uh, the spectrum on there. Um, but an overdrive, can add warmth, grit, sustain without completely over taking the signal. I think stacking these is really great. If you have a distortion pedal, not just a fuzz, I would say if you get it to where exactly you like it, then maybe roll it back a little bit further, because then if you put an overdrive after it, then you're really going to be, making that thing sing, because you can really control the output on the overdrive, but then, your tone also. So, running the fuzz into the overdrive is the most popular, right? So if you have the signal chain, guitar, fuzz, and then the amp, right? But in this part, we're always going to put the overdrive after fuzz, always fuzz first, and then have the overdrive after, and have that be last, right? Basically, before, like, if you have like a noise gate or something like that, and then after a noise gate, if you're going to go into like a delay or something like that, or a reverb into the front of the amp, you could do that. Otherwise, use the effects loop or whatever. But basically, if you're running the fuzz into the overdrive, then you can have a little more control, tame the harshness, frequencies and the harmonics of the fuzz, giving you a smoother tone. If you have, set up this way, the interaction is pretty interesting, because you get the overdrive pedal acts almost like the EQ and compressor, right, on top of the fuzz signal, so it can sort of shape it, tighten it up a little bit. Setup works great for leads if you want to add sustain and bite, but if you adjust the gain and control options of the overdrive, you can also fine tune the fuzz's character, dial back the harshness, enhance the mids for more presence. It's a little bit of a flexible approach for working across a wide variety of genres. For bluesy leads, a thick. You could get thick alt rock textures. What do they call that? They call that shoegaze. If you want to have just big noisy guitars, big noise, big sound, but not noise, but big sound. So overdrive into the fuzz. Okay, so this is where we get a little bit interesting. So things get a little wild. If you can run an overdrive into the fuzz, the overdrive kind of boosts the input signal, hitting the fuzz, pushing it into more of like an intense saturation and compression. And this also results in a heavier, more kind of chaotic tone. So you're boosting the signal before it even goes into the if you're dialing the volume back, then that kind of defeats the purpose. But if you have it past noon and you're pushing it a little bit, and you got you're basically oversaturating the with the amplitude there in the transistors in the fuzz pedal, and so you can get already driven signal right there. It gets explosive character, and setup's great for players that are looking to create walls of sound, maybe doom inspired textures, gritty shoegaze layers is what they say, right? Less about control and more about chaotic sonic energy. So you could always put an overdrive and then a fuzz and then an overdrive. I would if I had something that had a buffer, I'd rather have that be before the fuzz. That way at least you're not sort of sucking out some of the, but anyways, not all fuzz pedals can handle boosted signals the same way, so just keep that in mind. Some become way too noisy and lose clarity. Others come alive with added depth and aggression, or it's about finding the right pairing and dialing in the gain to match your vibe. They're not always going to be like that, right? But depends. And again, it's the volumes. Maybe you want to do a low volume into a high volume, or high volume into some low volumes, to test out. But some some pedals combine. These are combination pedals, and so this is one of them. the humanoid goblin. It's this is basically a overdrive, fuzz, distortion, kind of all in one. It's high gain silicon transistors, and what's nice is that usually it's designed to work together. So you can use a drive knob to tailor your fuzz tone with precision, right? Thanks to its wide EQ response, or again, use it just as low gain, just dial a little bit of hair on with the fuzz there, and you could have the gain up, but then the fuzz way down, and then now you've got you're kind of working with a little opening up the rather than closing the EQ a little bit there, in that response. But here's some extra tips, right? If you use your guitar's volume knob, you can, for instance, in the Ghoul, I have I don't have any of them right now, but I do have a prototype. You've never seen this before, but it's one of the little mini ones, and it's a Ghoul, and it's got just a set, amount of fuzz, right? There's just an output volume. It's just one knob. But for that, you're going to want to control it with your guitar's volume knob, and so if you're stacking, an overdrive after that could be perfect, because then you got multiple ways of adjusting. That when you roll, which every guitarist needs to get used to working with distortion and fuzz and whatever, and using their volume and tone controls on their guitar. But so let's talk about minding the signal chain here. Consider how many other pedals may affect the interaction between the fuzz and the overdrive. For example, if you're using a vintage fuzz like a fuzz face, putting it first in your signal chain and therefore, before your overdrive will give you better results, right? And these pedals need a high impedance signal to work their best. So this is the, this is the case with the Goblin. You want it. It's very high gain. You want the full signal in there. Otherwise, it just kind of seems choked out. It just doesn't get the way that you think it should get. It doesn't sound right. Dial in the gain carefully. You don't want it to be, maxing both on both pedals, is not going to get you it's probably going to feedback, lots of noise, squealing maybe even. But dirt pedals are noisy by themselves, right? So you want to make sure that if you balance the gain and try different settings, find a sweet spot, that's kind of what I was talking about before, referring to that a little bit. So dirt pedals are noisy. So if you use high quality power source, isolating your power supplies, especially vintage fuzzes and overdrives, right? What's the best order? Most people like the fuzz before the overdrive to tame the harsh frequencies, but what else can you do? You can try out some other options here. It's really one or the other, before or after, but then it just really comes down to tweaking so I'm going to show some examples here in just a few. Here's some other questions right here. Okay. Can you stack any fuzz and overdrive pedals together? Well, not all fuzz circuits, right? Especially the vintage germanium ones can be sensitive to input and buffer placement. So we didn't really talk much about those. We were talking about silicone. The other ones also definitely need a separate power supply, like probably a battery on their own, and they can't be connected to any other sort of power supply, so they just need a battery. And that's with the germanium ones, and they are very, it's a little bit more sensitive to the to being completely like overdriven and out, with the output volume blasted into them. You want to keep those as the first in the order there. But every time I see it, it's like experiment with pedal combinations to find the most musical pairing, right? Well, yes, of course, right? So can I stack a fuzz with a boost, right, instead of an overdrive? Well, yes, of course. Obviously, a boost is another way of, and a popular combination. Another way they did different type of control, and a clean boost placed before a fuzz pedal will increase the input signal, same way as doing, a little bit of an overdrive, but without having the separate gain and the separate, distortion or whatever. Might be a little more aggressive, saturated territory, placing the boost after the fuzz raises the overall output volume. Without altering the fuzz's character. So that could be great for pushing a tube amp or just, giving a volume boost, when you hit that when you're about to, play a little solo on stage. And then But here's some other questions. Why does my fuzz pedal sound muddy with an overdrive? Well, that can be when both your fuzz and overdrive pedals have too much gain or overlapping low-end frequencies, so you can stack high gain settings. It can cause your signal to lose clarity and definition, or you can lower the gain on one or both of the pedals and use a toner and EQ controls to cut some lows or boost the mids. I tend to find out that, my tube amp is very dark when I'm just in general. Like, I'm using normal pickups, even the ceramic, even the ones that I have that are ceramic on my Ibanez 7-string. Those can tend to sound a little bit, if I'm just using just the plain, if I put an overdrive on top of my my distortion channel, gets that little bit of extra, bite and a little bit of that extra, tonal, because it sort of cuts off a little bit of that low end, because it's meant to be like, this is what you would use to solo as like a boost plus, but anyways, I have, I'll show a little bit of this here coming up. But the key to understand, how your pedals interact with each other, and adjust your settings with the intention there with that. So stacking fuzz and overdrive pedals is a powerful way to shape your guitar tone and unlock new sonic textures. But each setup offers a unique character. Fuzz into overdrive gives you tighter, more focused sound, while overdrive into fuzz creates heavier saturation and unpredictability. So that is true. The key is to understand how pedals interact with the settings in your own rig. Don't be afraid to experiment or swap pedal positions, fine-tune your gain settings. With the right approach, your rig can deliver massive tones that feel just right for your style. So I will tell you that I did not write this. This originally was published on my website, the Humanoid FX blog. It was written by Ian Sniesko from Death Cloud, who actually has our pedals in stock. You should check out Death Cloud pedals. They're great. How to stack overdrive and fuzz pedals for massive tone. So I really appreciate him writing that. He's basically contributing to the Humanoid FX blog. He's our first, I think, real guest contributor. I dropped that thing. And I love it. So I'm going to get some of this stuff all set up. But one other thing I want to show, and that must have came out pretty loud. I built this, I got some more coming out, right? I did some work here, and I built, and I got some other reviews I'm going to be doing, other pedals, some stuff that's vintage. Here is a Boss OC2. It's an octave pedal. I think it's interesting. I'm going to do a review of that. I have another distortion over here I'm going to do a review of. Again, here is the Tank G by Wacato. I'm going to do a review of this. This is very nice because unlike the Cube Baby, that gives you 4 presets in a bunch of different banks. So you can bank in each bank, so like 9 banks. There might even be 10 or more. So you get like 40 presets in there, but this you get 3. So this is the Cube Baby, and you can set it 1, 2, and 3 of these. But that's it. So even though it's really nice with having all of these, preamps and cabs and all that stuff, you can only save 3 of these things. But I built this pedal board here. This is a big one. This is purple. I built this out of wood. And I'm building another one that's a single row, in the same style. Single row, but it's a bit longer, right? So longer than the standard, I think I had the Ghostfire. Longer than the standard Ghostfire. So that's cool because that's like a unique, size for that. And I might sell that on if I might sell a couple of these, and I might sell it on Reverb. So check out for that. But let me get some of this stuff set up. We'll check out and we'll hear how it sounds for the way that we can stack overdrive and fuzz pedals together. All right, stay tuned. Be right back. All right, let's hear the goblin into the entity here. And now, because we have it, let's do all three. Let's turn them all on. All right, now let's hear the exceptional overdrive going into the Goblin. Thanks for tuning in to the Humanoid FX Show. Next week, I'll have some more material. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.